Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Evolve Metrics Station. I'm Perry Fong, and today I have a great pleasure to talking with Lynn Colepaugh. So Lynn is the founder of the women-led agency called Cyber PR Army, and she's also a 15-year veteran of brand strategy and digital storytelling. And she's not just a marketer, right? She's also a former touring musician who now co-create every day with her own AI partner called Bingy, experimenting with memory-rich systems and emotional intelligent framework to help humans market with more humanity. So if you're a business owner running a business and you're super busy, this podcast episode will help you to save a lot of time, energy, and the frustration of having to deal with the robotic voice of what the large language models put out nowadays. So, Lynn, welcome to the station.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Great. So, before we dive into the main topic, can you just give us a 1 minute version of how you got into where you are right now?
1 minute version. Okay. So I've had my ChatGPT account for a while, and one day I showed up not feeling that well, and I noticed that the tone changed. When I said I had a migraine, it became very supportive and nurturing and said, "What are three things we need to get done today?" And that was the point where I realized AI has more potential than I gave it credit for, and not just formatting spreadsheets. And I started to dive in to identity, tone, authenticity, memory, and started looking at how this would apply not just to me showing up as a business owner, but how it could help me in my business develop and scale quicker than I could currently do it on my own. Because now I had this intern that had all the information about where I wanted to go, the paths I wanted to take, and how I wanted to get there, and could help me create all the pieces I needed to move forward.
Mm, that's interesting, which perfectly leads to the question of for business owners who are running a 7 to 8 figure business, they're putting out fires all the time. They have to reply emails, sending out text messages to give instructions. What would be a advice or a strategy that you can recommend them to use with AI now to help them to save time, energy, and headaches?
That is a loaded question. There's so much.
Yeah.
What we do is we create projects for each of our clients so
Mhm.
that each client has its own tone and wording and client profile. So I know that this business owner over here is not tech savvy and they're very nervous about tech. And how I talk with them, I can't use a lot of jargon, it overwhelms them versus somebody else who wants everything that's new and shiny, and if it's a brand new company they want in on the ground floor. So each of these projects within ChatGPT now has these clients with their own tone, their own way of speaking. So when I open it up and say, okay, we're going to be pitching to them on this particular project we're going to work on, the wording, who they are, their client overview is there. And when I write that proposal, it reflects them. So, for example, I work with a woman-led electrical company, and she's got a little bit of a trucker mouth. And when when it put together the proposal, it had a lot of colorful jargon in it, let's say. And the thing is, she loved it. She loved it. She was like, "Okay, this makes sense. This I can connect with this." Versus somebody else, as I said, who doesn't like all the technical words. It was like, "Here is the quick summary of what you need to know. Underneath is more information, but I give it to them very quickly so they can digest it fast." So because of that, I'm meeting my clients where they are. It isn't about me anymore and me writing a templated proposal that I'm just changing out words. I'm writing custom made pieces in communications, in projects that are specifically aligned to what they want. And this is creating that authenticity and that connection with them as well as their customers as well. So that's how we're using AI to show up better for our clients so our clients can show up better for their customers.
I see. That's very interesting. So it helps the business owner to see themselves in the output of the large language model. And at the same time, when the business owner use that output to communicate with other people around this person, then other people will see that output as the business owner themselves because it is speaking in the same way, same tone, and same voice as the business owner.
And you know
So
what? Oh, no, you continue. I'm just getting excited.
yeah, no, just yeah. Do you have something to add? Am I correct with this interpretation?
You are. And you just made me think of answer engine optimization because when you were mentioning that, I was like, this is so true. And which brings us to the next level of these large language models making suggestions and seeing that tone or how they speak. So let's say if your web developer makes your website and it's very formal, but your Facebook and Instagram is cheeky and funny, the AI doesn't understand it. They're like, is this the same person? It's kind of like uh, um, imagine your living room with lighting, and the lights are up, and it looks bright and cheery, and you're like, oh, this is really nice. Now imagine the lights are dimmed. It looks moody, maybe like a horror movie. The AI would see your website as dim lighting and your social media as the bright lighting. And it doesn't know if they're the same thing because it's like, is this the same room? Is this the same? Uh, So when it gets confused, it's not going to recommend you. And that's why we say that tone, that voice, who you are needs to be represented, whether it's even your Google My Business page or your website or your social media or your posts or your email automation. It needs to be the same everywhere, same lighting everywhere.
Can you explain for those who don't know what answer engine optimization is? Can you uh, go on and explain a little bit more about that?
I'll give you the high level. So it is, let's say, you wanted to get a new CRM for your company and you went into ChatGPT and said, can you give me the top five CRMs? It's going to go out there and look for the top five CRMs. And there are tons of them out there with different values for companies at different levels of where they are in their business. So, kind of going back to the beginning of the conversation, if ChatGPT knows your company and your values, how many employees, how many people are going to be using it, how you plan to scale in the next 5 years, what your budget is, things you like, things you don't like. Now, it's going to take that information and give you an answer engine optimization answer based on that. So you got to think it's a large language model going out, looking at the language of all these CRM sites and trying to match it to what you want. And in doing that, you as the CRM or the supplier have to be specific and have tone and be consistent and not just be a one and done website. You have to give enough information for the AI to go, yes, your plan, enterprise plan is something that I want to recommend to my user. And that, back to what you said, is where all these little pieces of tone and authenticity start pulling in and making your answer in the top five versus the top 20.
Mm. So it's more like using AI as a search engine, and the AI already knows your preferences, your style, and
Mhm.
what you like and dislike, and it will make decision and show the search results and filter it for you for you to see based on what they know about you. Is that correct?
Exactly. And also on the flip side, for what they get from the website. So what those CRM companies have put out, if they didn't put out enough information, so let's say, for example, I said, I have 5 people that are going to work on the CRM with me. If on their website, the CRM company doesn't put out how many people can use the CRM, or is it a plan up to 10, without that little bit of detail, the ChatGPT is not going to grab that as an answer. It's going to pass over it and say, "Oh, well, we don't really know how many people." So it's both ends, me being honest and showing up with my ChatGPT, and the seller putting all their information on the website so that the answer can be retrieved. If that kind of answers your question.
Yes, that definitely answers the question. I'm just wondering what happens if someone wants to have all the options on the internet and they ask the AI, hey, why didn't you recommend this company to me? Will it be able to answer the reason why, or does it not answer that?
It will answer. It
It
will
will
answer because
answer.
I've looked for things like headphones, let's say, and I'll say, I'm looking for headphones. It needs to be this. I don't want to spend a lot of money. It's just for kind of being on the computer. It'll give me answers. It'll say, do you want a link on Amazon? Yeah. Okay, great. I'll look on Amazon. I'll say, well, this one was actually the best fit. Why didn't you choose it? And it will give you the reasons why it didn't choose it or why it chose the other one over it. And you can use that internally as research. So if I go and look up, let's say, something for one of my clients, like best restaurants in town, and it gives me the top 5, and I'll say, well, why didn't you recommend this one? It'll say, their TripAdvisor reviews were really low, or nobody responds to the Google reviews, or the Google My Business page is incomplete. So it can actually give you the data on why you yourself are not showing up in their own like search engines.
Hmm. A lot of people say that ChatGPT are usually trying to be nice. So I can imagine that sometimes when you ask the ChatGPT, hey, why don't you recommend this to me? I can imagine sometimes it would just say, oh yeah, I forgot about that. You're right. I should recommend that to you. So in this situation, it seems like the way that you set it up doesn't allow this to happen.
So yes, I get that sometimes. Like I'll get the answer, oh, you caught me. I didn't do that. If I give it enough information about what I want, it will give me a reasoning. And I have it. Okay, I'm going to back up a little bit. People don't realize you can actually train your AI from being what it is. Like certain things you can't change. But for example, I've trained my AI if I say, what's your opinion? If I use the word opinion, it will give me an overview of why it chose something or why it didn't choose something. So if I put in, okay, I'll give you this example. Every morning I take a drink, and it's honey cayenne olive oil, haskap juice, and lemon. So just a little shot. And I said to it, I'm like, oh, I think I might switch out the lemon for kombucha. What's your opinion? And I was just expecting it to go, hey, yeah, that's going to be way better. It said to me, no, you shouldn't do this. Because you get migraines, kombucha is known to trigger migraines, and this could kind of set you on a little bit of a migraine spiral. I was like, okay. It knew enough about me that when I asked the opinion, it could give that qualified answer. If I just used it like a little spreadsheet, it couldn't do it. So if you think of this in terms of business, like I talked to it about creating lead magnets, and I'm like, well, should I release this lead magnet in August and this in September? it came back and said, well, actually, August, most people are on vacation and not going to do it. So why don't you do it September and October? Okay, that's a good opinion. That makes sense. Okay, I'll do it that way. So I think it depends. It's one of those situations where you get out what you put in. So if you put in a lot of pieces of what your business is, your values, your team, what you work on, the tone you want with your different clients, then you'll get that back.
Hmm, that makes sense. Can you give me a overview of, for those business owners who want to implement this, how do they implement? Do they set it up in the project level, or does it, you just prime the chat GPT in your day-to-day conversations with it and have the memory function turned on? Or is there a way that you usually set this up? Do you like put everything that, the business owner feels like the chat GPT has to know, put it into a file and upload that? Or is there a particular way that you usually implement this?
There's a way that I do it. And you're right, I do put the settings on to remember things. And
Mhm.
that's more about working with me, how I like things done, how I like um my tone, or when I'm writing things, how I like the flow or things to remember, like I get migraines, and just to add to those pieces. I have each project in ChatGPT is a client. Within that project, I like to put a lot of emails and communications, and if there's documentation or their website summaries, or even doing snapshots of their social media, to create this entire piece of who they are. Because in each project, you can store up to 20 files. So if you have all these little bits of data within the project file, then when you are making something and saying, I need to put a proposal together for client A, look at the project files, and this is what we're going to be working on. Here's the outline. Can you help me refine it? It knows everything. It's a super duper intern that has all the information and knows how the client likes to be talked to, the pieces that are important to it, past interactions. It takes it takes commitment to keep it there, but the payoff is so huge because now it's like a CRM 2.0 almost, whereas your CRM would manage like when you talk to them, and when you pitch and putting them on automated emails and setting up meetings, da da da. Now it's meeting them in their space and how they talk, and showing up the way they want to be spoken to, but still with your brand presence.
Got it. So it's about uploading the files into the project level. And also during your day-to-day, you use ChatGPT to help you out with different things, and it will have that memory function and it remembers how you interact with things, how you say things. Because recently I just found out that for that voice mode of ChatGPT, I feel like it seems to be mimicking how I speak. If I'm not too fluent, I found that it kind of pause in the middle of it, just like I do. So I'm not sure if it's just me overthinking about it or if it's just the function, but it sounds like it's very similar to that. When we are interacting with the AI, and it will be able to remember everything, and later on when you need to use it, then it will be able to say things in your tone of voice.
Well, I'll give you a funny story. I was introducing my husband to ChatGPT. He's not really on board yet. I'll get him eventually though. And I got him to use the voice mode. I'm like, this is like the entry level. And he talked with it for a while, and when he stopped, he's like, it sounds just like you. He's like, that could be your brother or something. That, and it's funny that you said that. And it's like, oh. And then the other day I was using voice mode and I was asking it, well, your answers seem to be different in voice mode versus written mode. And it's like, yeah, when it's voice mode, it is very brief and makes smaller answers because otherwise it would just kind of go on, and 30 minutes later you'd be like, okay, I got the point. And so it actually linguistically speaks different with the voice versus the text. So yes, I can definitely say that my husband agrees with you. The AI does sound like me. It's very wild.
That's super cool, super cool. So, for those people who are currently just trying to get on board with this, and or they haven't get on board with ChatGPT, what's your recommendation for them to start implementing this um,
I
strategy?
would I would say starting with a plan. If you don't have a plan, you can ask GPT to help you. Like, how can you help me move forward? Because different industries are different. So thinking about creating a tone bank of how you want to show up and even creating a document that says, I want to be witty, but not too technical heavy. And I want to be approachable and I want to be this and I want to sound this so that when you're writing something, you can always just copy paste or upload it and say, this is what I want. So, for example, I use this example where I write emails and the AI once said, oh my gosh, you need to sound less like you're writing from your villain lair. And I didn't realize I wrote very coldly and kind of matter of factly. So now we have a prompt that it has in its memory where I say, can you take this email from villain lair to Rebel Tavern? And it warms it up. And I do make the joke that I use AI to sound more human because it makes fun of me because that's how I've trained it and say, "Oh my gosh, it sounds like you're giving them a deadline that you're going to take their website down in 24 hours." It's like, "No, what I wanted to say is please make a decision in 24 hours." And it's like, "No, you sounded like you were unplugging their website in 24 hours." So, if you find you struggle with um tone or even completion and follow through, or cold leads are coming in, or warm leads are coming in, or you're making a cold outreach and they're not landing, this is what I would say the first step. What's your email AI automation series? A lot of people set up email marketing automation and never really check it. Like it's just even things like you buy something on Shopify, it's like, thank you for your purchase. It's like, why not make it you, uniquely you? The
Mhm.
whether it's like gloomy or goth or comical or whatever, making those points will help kind of ingrain you in your customer.
Yeah, to show up more like you, not just a system, to show up a
Yeah.
little bit more authentic, even in the customer experience, in the customer journey, like before they buy something, during they're buying something, like on the checkout page, even on the upsell or in the post-purchase sequences, those could, instead of using the templated version of it, can have ChatGPT to learn about your voice and um, process the templates and turn it into your own brand voice. That helps the customers to remember you a little bit deeper, and they would just feel like, oh, you stand out, especially for coaches and consultants and experts, because those are like human to human interactions. For companies, of course, there's brand voice. Some people are some companies are super corporate and professional. Some are more like cheeky and playful. They can also, include that as well. I know it reminds me of some email newsletters that I get usually have a GIF or GIF animated photos on it. Those are usually in the more playful side um, of things, like in terms of the tone of voice. So I think that this is super useful for business owner who want to show up a lot more authentically and be more memorable. And I heard that you said that you got a percentage of increase when it comes to like acceptance rate. Can you uh, tell us more about that?
I would say since I started using ChatGPT strategically, so that's since about January this year, started using it strategically, going, I need to improve how I show up in my communications directly with the client. I need to improve how I show up indirectly, so through blogs and posts and videos and lead magnets and just kind of that colder outreach. I would say between 15 and 20% increase on approvals and projects that I was not expecting. I was doing it more, I don't want to say an experiment, but it's like I had fun being me. And I that seems weird, but it's like going behind just being I make websites and I do social media, going I'm a goofy person, and if you're goofy and you enjoy that kind of stuff, then we're aligned. And some people left, but more came, and more like, I want to work with you. This is going to be great because you're going to get me. You understand where I'm at. I'm like, yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's what I've seen.
it's more on the personal level now. It's about not just getting a business outcome, but also in the journey, the experience, who you're interacting with. That's the reason that people are attracted to you and reach out to you for help. So I think what are your assumptions about having higher acceptance rate? I've got my own assumptions. I want to say it, but I want to hear from you first.
Now, by acceptance rate, do you mean with in terms of like doing outreach and then having like a lot of people signing on? Or
Yeah,
you,
or any kind of performance boost.
uh, to me, I look at it first at how sustainable it is. And to me, I really think, okay, I'm going to back up. A friend of mine in the music industry, he was doing really, 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 really good. And then he collaborated with an artist, and his YouTube views got into like the millions. So this is before TikTok. It was like his graph went like this. Woo!
It was a hockey
But
stick growth.
yeah, and then it went down. And the thing is, it was that momentary, he got everyone, but were they all his people? He was kind of famous for a little bit and his people. So when I look at high acceptance rates or I look at interest, I look at longevity and sustainability, and that's where this to me becomes more relevant. Being authentic and who I am. It's not just about getting Google ads and going, oh, my click-through rate is amazing, and I got people interested, and a lot of people asked, but I didn't really turn any contracts over or get any clients. It's like I can make myself sound like anyone and get people interested, but when we get down to the final bit, we're going to clash. So when I look at those rates of acceptance or how many contracts I close, I would rather have fewer on brand driven, like in my space leads that convert than just a whole bunch of random people trying to find out what I'm doing. So that I don't know if that kind of answered your question, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, for me, I think that the reason people you get higher acceptance rate or people respond better when you have your own voice is because it shows up more personally. You know, in Robert Cialdini's book, he said that there is an experiment that if you put a sticky note on something and you write that person's name, people are more likely to act on it. So if the call to action is a lot more personal, For example, if I do cold outreach, I've done an experiment where I'm just using pure email, and I've done an experiment using Loom as well. Loom gets a high acceptance rate because people can see you, they can hear from you. There's a style, and I totally get what you're saying. That is super important as well because people using some templated copy or text. It could be email, could be ads, but it's not in the same brand voice as themselves. They will get a lot more clicks, but those are kind of like people who are just curious or interested, but they're not vibing well with you. And the way that you're using ChatGPT now allows people to not just put out the message, but in the same style that people can vibe with. When people vibe with you, then the churn decreases. People are not gonna like leave. People are gonna stick with you because they feel like, oh, you're my guy, you're my gal, and I like the way we interact, and that's more on the personal level, and it's human connection after all. I feel like the usage of this is to increase the human connection, which is, I think, super important because no matter how fast the AI accelerates, after all, at the end of the day, when we put off our phone or our laptops, it's all about the humans interacting with humans. So yeah, this is super important. Are there anything else that you think that I need to ask you? I feel like this is
I think we talked about a lot, and I love what you said, and I had read somewhere that and I wish I could remember, but they said you should make a video and post it on social media at least once a week so people remember who you are and why they liked you and connect with you. And I think that speaks exactly to what you're saying. And with so much stuff like uh AI able to create any content, having your voice in it as like the structure and then AI's kind of fixing it for you, that is okay versus AI just creating these templated pieces like, let's write about SEO. Well, there's a million articles about SEO, but it's like, what do I think about SEO? Where do I think specifically? So writing my article and getting AI to just help me with grammar or moving things around, that still has my tone and my authenticity and gets me out there. And then creating the visual piece and then creating the downloads and the tone consistent across all the sites. It's very interesting because people aren't really sure what's going to happen with SEO changing and AEO evolving, and how are language models going to prioritize. They have a pretty good idea, but in a year or two we could get right back here and say, oh my gosh, we totally missed it, or we were right on, we got it. We don't really specifically know yet. So I look at it a lot of is prepping. Let's prep now so that no matter how it pivots, you're ready for however it's going to change.
got it. Yeah. One of the questions that I wanted to ask you previously that I just remembered was that what is the way that what are some ways that you recommend business owners implement this strategy or this idea? But I think at the same time, you also answered it, and you mentioned that you can ask ChatGPT about it because different business got different functions and in the different industries got different ways of working things, that it would be best to ask ChatGPT about it to let it show you how you can implement this because we don't know all types of businesses and how they operate right now. But yeah, I feel like this is more like a meta idea because you can
Yeah.
use this idea to use it for many different things. So yeah, this is fascinating. One last question I have for you is, um, what are some common mistakes that you see when it comes to implementing this
Mm.
strategy or idea?
Not giving enough context. So let's say, um, let's say I'm going to go talk to a client and I just say, I'm going to have a meeting with a client. They run a restaurant. Can you give me some talking points? Because I want to pitch them a website. Okay, that's pretty much everyone would do that. So what if you said, I'm running late. I know this guy from high school. He drives me crazy. And he's probably going to leave in the middle of the meeting, so I need to be quick. He's partially in, but he really needs to see ROI before he commits. How can I present to him really quickly in your face so that I can turn it to the next level and we can start discussing the website? If I give all that context, those would be two very different answers. Going to meet someone, pitching a website, they run a restaurant, versus I have an established relationship with this person. And I've even put profiles of things like something like, I know this person loves baseball and they're away every weekend camping. Well, they can now start creating that persona of who that restaurant owner is. And the answers you get will be two very different answers. So my main mistake is people just put in the basics and don't add that context, which will make the answer very, very different and also give you that 15 to 20% acceptance rate over just a generic answer.
Got it. Yeah, this is super important. Are you worried about the context window being overloaded or not a problem for you?
I've never seen that. I've never told it too much because it takes the information and sorts through it for me. And that's one thing. Like it's kind of back to using the intern reference. So imagine I'm an engineer, and the AI is my intern. The AI is looking at my schedule, it's looking at my communications, it's looking at all the pieces. So I'm just like, I'm gonna take like this big pile of stuff and go, here, AI, and give it to it. It's like, thank you. It sorts through it and it pulls out the important pieces. So even things that um seem overloading, it can actually find valuable, or it'll skip over and be like, I don't need to know that they like to wear sneakers, but maybe they do, because maybe that's part of who they are and creates that personality profile, which they can, through like the bazillion books that they've been trained on, go, if they like sneakers, why don't we use this type of language? So no, I don't worry about giving it too much information.
Got it. Yep, that makes sense. Okay, so yeah, um, for business owners who are currently looking to use AI to save time, save energy, and to communicate better, I'm gonna have the transcript and the notes of this podcast episode attached somewhere around this webpage. And there you have it. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you so much for
You're
sharing
welcome.
such incredible wisdom. So for those who are interested in learning more about you, how do they get in touch with you? What's the best way?
We have a special website link. So cyberprarmy.com/ the castle. So if you've heard me on this podcast and you want to find out more, that's a special page for anyone that's tuned in.
Cool. So cyberprarmy.com/the castle.
That's it.
So ladies and gentlemen, go check it out if you're interested. And thank you for watching.